Hey, how are you doing, Emily, my daughter? How are things going for you today? So today is September 23rd. It's a Sunday, and just getting ready for my day today. And I just finished flossing my teeth with the Waterpik water flosser. Man, let me tell you, I really love that thing. What do I love about it? I love how effective it is when I use it. And this is part of the reason why I like it so much. It's that when I use it, I can see as the water falls out of my mouth, I can see bits of food falling into the sink. And every time that happens, I'm like, yes, yes, it's working. And it's a really wonderful feeling. And what's even more wonderful is the water flosser doesn't hurt my teeth. It doesn't hurt my gums at all. In fact, I'm doing it once a day now. And I'm thinking about doing it twice a day. Because I love it so much. That is, I'm thinking about doing it after breakfast before I go to work. And then after I eat dinner in the evenings. You know? I think I'm going to start doing that. It's so funny. When I floss with thread, you know, I tried to floss with thread, but I would try to floss twice a day, and what would happen was that my gums, they would get so inflamed and they would hurt that after 2 or 3 days, I couldn't floss anymore because it was just too painful. In fact, eating was a problem too. I guess I might just be a really firm flosser, and that might be the reason that I had so many problems with it. Maybe my technique was poor. But this water flosser, it's actually quite enjoyable to use. You know, physically enjoyable. It's almost as if my gums are being massaged. And I really kind of like that. It's a pleasant thing, and what's even more pleasant is this idea that it's working, that it works, and that it may work even better than thread flossing. I love this idea that I think I've read that there have been studies done that compare water flossing to thread flossing, and they're finding that water flossing might be better than thread flossing. You know, just a little bit better, like 10 or 20% better. And isn't it amazing to think that a technique for flossing not only is better, but is also more enjoyable? So, you know, it took me a lot of years as a kid to develop the ability to thread floss and to enjoy it and to do it regularly. You know, it kind of was a challenge. It was a challenge relating to self-discipline. Putting, you know, just doing that every day, it's kind of a challenge. And it's certainly more of a challenge after I got braces last year. You know, that was really challenging. I was searching the internet for all kinds of gadgets that I could use to make that whole process a lot more pleasant, or even possible with braces. You know, the braces come across the outside of your teeth, and so the question is, how do you thread the floss in a way that makes sense and that does not take forever? Eventually, I did find some thread floss that was sort of firm at the ends, that you could fish underneath the brace wire and then floss between the teeth. And I was doing that every once in a while, but you know, I wasn't doing it often enough. I was doing it like once a week, or then once, or maybe even once every 2 weeks. And it just wasn't getting the job done. And that's why I went for the water flosser, because I knew that I had to do something, because I know that flossing teeth is really important for health. It's important for heart health. I think it's important for the health of the body when it comes to things like inflammation. And plus, you know, there are hygienic reasons. I don't like food stuck in my braces, and I certainly don't like to know or to think that other people are looking at food in my braces after a meal. So, you know, I am very keen on figuring out ways to keep my teeth cleaner now that I've got braces. And you know, I would guess my hygiene did take a hit for the first, I don't know, 3, 4, 5 months. Even though I really tried. Like, I would brush my teeth after every single meal. I really tried to up my game as it relates to my teeth hygiene. And I think I've finally figured out a plan that is workable, that I enjoy, that I can do every day, that ensures the cleanest teeth possible. And that is, you know, using water flossing. And I also do brush every day. I continue to brush every day. And I use a tongue scraper, which I've been using for years anyway. And I find that also very, very beneficial. I love tongue scraping. Okay, we're getting into a lot of detail here, but I tell you, these are great dental hygiene tips that I'm sharing. These are life-changing dental hygiene tips that people need to know. This is important stuff. You know, how to stay healthy. You know, that's what being a human is all about. In fact, that's what we do all day long. Really, our work and energy is devoted to keeping us happy and healthy. And, you know, these are some of the things that I've been enjoying doing lately, and they work for me. And I wanted to pass that information along. Very good. So, I hope you're enjoying your weekend so far. I'm curious, are you still playing volleyball? And I wonder, are you playing volleyball games? Like local high school volleyball games? Well, that's nice to know. I'm glad you're keeping active. You know, keeping active is important. I've been thinking lately that I might want to be more active than I am. I was working out twice a week for a while, and then I decided to work out 3 times a week. And I really liked working out 3 times a week. And but then I've got some like tendonitis in my shoulder beginning. That started last week. And I thought, okay, I'll just drop down to twice a week. And you know what? I don't care for working out twice a week. It's actually harder to work out less. I know. And you know what? I find that my life is is a little bit more chaotic. It's not coming together. I'm not as energetic in the participation of my life when I work out only 2 days a week. When I work out 3 days a week, for some reason, I've got this energy. I'm like a dynamo. And I've got this up and atom kind of spirit when I'm working out 3 days a week. When I'm working out only 2 days a week, it's like, you know, it's like, I'll do it later. I'm like totally in relaxation mode all the time. And you know, I never really thought that that would be the case. It turns out that the less I work out, the more lackadaisical I am in my life, in my day. And the more I work out, it's almost like the more busy and energetic I become. So, it's a really interesting thing. You would think that the more I worked out in the gym, the more tired I would be, the more lackadaisical I would be. And that is definitely not the case. So now I'm trying to figure out ways, how can I work out more and make the time to do it? And really, what exercises ought I to do? You know, I'm interested in doing exercises that are really functional, right? Exercises that will help me out in the sort of problems of daily living. Things like, you know, I want to do exercises that could help me, say, lift groceries, right? Or if I get a flat tire, I want an exercise that will be complementary to helping me change a tire, right? To lift a tire out of the back of my van and install it. Now, what exercise can I do in the gym that would assist me in that? You know, I'm thinking about, you know, deadlifts could help, or squats could help, or I don't know. I'm trying to think, maybe a leg press. You know, I want to choose as many functional exercises as I can. I look at some exercises in the gym and, you know, they don't seem to be that functional to me. One thing is like the elliptical trainer. I look at that and I ask myself, what am I training my body to do when I do an elliptical, do the elliptical trainer? I don't know. It's really, I don't know what's going on there. So anyway, that reminds me actually that I want to get some walking in done today. Usually once a week, I walk really, really fast, power walking for 2 hours at a time. And I failed to do that this last week, so that's something I want to do today. Maybe I'll try to power walk this afternoon after I go dancing. That's right. Of course, I go dancing. I go dancing every Sunday. Or I try to go dancing at least once a week. Fridays, Saturdays, or Sundays. And I'll be going dancing today in San Luis Obispo. So looking forward to that. Maybe I'll meet a whole bunch of new people, which is a joy to me. I love meeting new people and finding out who they are and what they do. People are just so interesting to me. They're just so curious. I wonder about them. Okay, so let's see. What's been going on with me? Okay, so I think what I'll do is let's read Mary McKenzie's book, A Passage from It, Peaceful Living. And we'll read today's passage. Now today is what, the 23rd of September? So here we go. So the quote that Mary McKenzie has selected for us today in her book is, "Happiness is not a state to arrive at, but a manner of traveling," by Samuel Johnson. So let me give you my take on that quote, and then we will read Mary McKenzie's take on the quote, and we'll talk about it. So Samuel Johnson says, "Happiness is not a state to arrive at, but a manner of traveling." You know, that is true. You know, happiness is an attitude. It is a manner of traveling through your life. Sure. You know, it's an attitude. It's how you approach the trials, how you approach events that happen in your life. Yeah. I'm not sure if I can say much about it. It's not a state to arrive at. I guess that's the point, right? It's not a state to arrive at. Like, there's no point in the future when that you're trying to meet. You know, like, I'll be at a happiness level of 10 in 1 year when I accomplish these goals. Well, you know, How do you sort of deconstruct that? I guess it really goes to the core of this idea of being happy no matter what, right? It's kind of funny. There's like two kinds of happiness. There's like the happiness that one derives from just living their life, right? It ought to be like a low-level, constant sense of awe and joy about the opportunities you've got in your life. There's that kind of happiness. And then there's what I'd call like an episodic happiness. Happiness that occurs when you've achieved your goals, or there's some great surprise that has sort of happened to you or something like that. Maybe you win the lottery, or maybe you finally get that car that you've been saving up for, or maybe that joy and happiness that relates to playing with a friend, say in a swimming pool. So there's like an episodic happiness, and then there's like a low-level happiness that's continuous, really, that I think can be recognized in every moment if you give yourself the chance to recognize it, if you give yourself permission to recognize it. Even when you're in your lowest, deepest, darkest moods, hopefully there's a moment that you can pause and say, despite all my feelings and mood at the moment, I am happy that at least I'm alive, and that I am happy to know that I have the potential or ability to feel this low mood as I'm feeling it. I mean, that in itself is a gift, right? There are beings on the planet that don't have emotions. Some of them are victims of like brain diseases, or maybe they've had surgeries or strokes, and maybe they're just fully emotionally level. And there is some enjoyment that can be had to changes in your mood levels. The exercising of your brain, even if it happens to be somewhat unpleasant or even emotionally painful. I think there can be a recognition that you have a brain that is functioning, and that in itself is a source of joy. Yeah. So when I read this quote, it says, happiness is not a state to arrive at, but a manner of traveling. This is a quote that's basically emphasizing one kind of happiness. That low-level, continuous joy and happiness that can be recognized in every moment just by the fact that you're alive. And that's an important kind of happiness. There's another important kind of happiness, and that is the happiness that comes as the result of goal achievement and maintaining your values, and things like that episodic happiness. I think that's important too, although this quote is not necessarily emphasizing that kind of happiness. But there are at least two kinds of happiness. All right. Apparently that's what that quote means to me, so let's see what Mary Mackenzie has to say about this idea. So for her passage, her subtitle is Enjoyment Redefined. Okay, enjoyment redefined. You might have known, here's the thing. I don't necessarily, as you can tell, I have some problems with Mary Mackenzie's writing style. I just do. Her writing style to me strikes me as not that considered. And maybe just because I recognize how it contrasts to my own writing style. My own writing style is very considered. I try to be as accurate in my expression as possible. But sometimes I think Mary exaggerates and sometimes isn't clear. This enjoyment redefined, like, I'm not sure, but what does that even mean? Really? Is she going to redefine enjoyment for us? Okay. All right. I'm willing to accept this new definition of enjoyment. Let's see. Let's see. Let's see. I want to know what this new definition of enjoyment is. Here we go. Let's find out. The purpose of life is not to get somewhere, but to enjoy the ride. I used to live my life just getting through things. I was miserable most of the time, but I kept telling myself that someday I would be happy. I forced myself to accept jobs I didn't enjoy, to date men who didn't meet my need for respect, to maintain friendships with people I didn't enjoy, because I thought that by doing this, I would benefit down the line. The problem was down the line never happened. I never felt joy because I was doing things that gave me no pleasure. One day I realized that if I didn't start to enjoy my life now, I never would. Today is what you have. Consider what you can do to enjoy it. And the thought for the day is, do something that you enjoy today. There's nothing more precious than this moment. Okay, in general, I like this thought. You know, do something that you enjoy today. There's nothing more precious than this moment. And you know that for me, peace and enjoyment and contentment are like my main focuses in life, right? My main focuses in life are those things. And I pretty much mention those ideas in every video that I produce. And in each one of our conversations. So this is important stuff. I really appreciate this. And here I am. I'm getting wrapped around the axle regarding how Mary McKenzie is talking about these ideas. Okay. Enjoyment redefined. Okay, so here I am. This is called textual criticism. Literary criticism. Darn it. Okay. All right. So I'm just going to touch on some of these ideas. I used to live my life just getting through things. And you know what? A lot of people do that. I saw it a lot in school where people talk about just finishing the exam or just getting through the homework and getting through stuff and getting to the other side. And, you know, I think there's a virtue related to that. There is a self-discipline in order to get to the other side. And sometimes activities are rather onerous and aren't necessarily pleasurable, and, you know, they need to get done. And so I can appreciate this sentiment for what it is. I think it's a little overstated, though. You know, that's how she lived her life. She was miserable most of the time. I forced myself to accept jobs I didn't enjoy. I don't even know if you can force yourself to do anything. Can you really force yourself to do something? I don't know. That's an interesting philosophical question. I'm not sure. I forced myself to accept jobs that I didn't enjoy, to date men who didn't meet my need for respect. She forced herself to date men who didn't meet her need for respect? Why would you do that? She forced herself to maintain friendships with people she didn't enjoy. What? What? Thinking that by doing this, I would benefit down the line. I don't know. I don't know what this is all about. She's so funny. So one day I realized that if I didn't start to enjoy my life now, I never would. Well, that's a good point, I guess. Today is what you have. Consider what you can do to enjoy it. All right. Let's just accept the sentiment as it is. And that is, really, it really does come down to that. This is your life. This is moment by moment you're living it. And those seconds are ticking away. And, these seconds are all that you have. So really, it's a choice about how you want to live your life throughout, and how you live your life is dependent on those moment-to-moment decisions. I think that really is the essential truth here. And that is, your life is really an accumulation of moments. It's just summation of every moment. And, in every moment, there lies a choice about, with what attitude are you approaching each moment? Every moment is a building block in the house of your life. And you're building it brick by brick, moment by moment. And, it really is important to pause for a moment and focus. Focus on what this moment means to you and whether you like your approach. Is your approach to sort of responding to every moment something that you can live with? Is it something that you can be proud of? Is it really something that is a reflection of the deeper you, of the deeper me? It's important. It's important. And there's a lot, the thing about the brain is that there's a lot of automatic thinking that happens. This automatic thinking is a carryover from the past. I'm certain that I have what I'd call mental tapes or ideas that I produced when I was a teenager or even a child. I'm sure I still entertain what I'd call the autonomous thinking of a child and of a teenager, despite the fact that I'm like 47 years old now. I know, no doubt there are thoughts in my mind that I entertain on a daily basis, maybe even on an hourly basis. The same thoughts which I thought when I was a teenager, or when I was in my 20s, or even my 30s. I'm certain I've got a lot of thoughts like that. And the question, and these are automatized thoughts. These are thoughts set in motion years and years ago, in contexts and in situations that are very different from what they are today. And the question is, are they still relevant? Are these the automatized thoughts that I still want in my life? And really it's up to me to choose whether these expressions, even though they are internal expressions, thoughts that arise in my mind through my inner voice often, are these thoughts really appropriate? Are these thoughts really, say, the kind and gentle, considerate thoughts that I want in my mind? It's really about raising my own standards. And, it's about being cognizant of these standards in moment to moment. This is actually really hard. It's not easy to have this kind of focus and to maintain it. It's about respecting yourself. It's about respecting the world. There are a lot of thoughts that I had when I was, say, in my 20s. So there are a lot of thoughts that I had in my 20s and 30s that just aren't true. You know, they're not an accurate reflection of the real world. And it, you know, it's really up to me to screen those thoughts, to sort of, to select out, to really just engage in what I'd call thought stopping, to sort of be skeptical about the thoughts that I think. You know, ask myself, are these thoughts really an accurate reflection or description of reality? And if they're not, have the courage to do some thought stopping and say, despite the fact that these ideas tend to be repeated again and again in my mind, I am going to rise above them, and I'm going to apply a different standard, maybe a better standard that serves my interests in ways that that are helpful to me instead of harmful, right? Things that make me more effective than less effective in the world. You know, I think it's about being competent, right? It's about a competent appraisal of my external situation. And, you know, that in itself takes some discipline. It takes some thought to do that. And it takes time and maybe even a little effort. And the benefit is, I think the benefit is, from more accuracy, a more accurate understanding of reality, I think the benefit is more enjoyment, more happiness. Yeah, yeah, more peace. It's certainly more peace. Yeah. Yeah. Those distortions relating to, say, overgeneralizations, you know, it's about putting those distortions to rest. It's basically being skeptical about what's passing through your mind in the moment. And, you know, if there happens to be a thought that's causing some distress, be especially skeptical of that thought, right? Yeah. You know, it's about self-care. You know, self-care takes some effort. It's kind of funny how it can be at times appealing to maintain inaccurate descriptions of reality. You know, what is it about a brain that maintains an inaccurate description of reality and causes discomfort? And what is it about a brain that maintains that inaccurate description and upholds that inaccurate description? At the same time, it acknowledges that the description is inaccurate quite often. You know, what is it about a mind that is willing to distort reality? You know, it must be, you know, it must be because there is some future, there must be some goal it's trying to preserve, some value it's trying to conserve. You know, there might be this idea, probably a mistaken one, that, say, self-punishment will result in future benefit. You know, I think our culture has been enamored with the idea of punishment and with the idea that punishment works as a strategy to create future benefit. You know, our society and culture, it's really kind of obsessed with this idea of punishment and how it works. And, you know, I can see how punishment or even the threat of punishment might work in the short term. But I have a feeling that in the long term, it doesn't work. Guidance and education are what works long term. Punishment or the threat of punishment only creates people and conditions that respond to punishment only. They respond to force and threats of force only. And it doesn't really sort of support a person's personal development and personal growth and knowledge and understanding of the situation. You know, that's what it's that knowledge and understanding that you want to uplift. This whole leaning on the idea that, you know, people only respond to force as a righting factor, as whatever rights behavior. I don't know. Anyway, I think there's like an ultra reliance on punishment in our society. It's a feeling, it's this odd belief that if punishment happens, then somehow justice is served, right? All we need to do is punish people, and that will solve the problem. And that's such a simplistic idea. I don't like that idea at all. You know, it's funny how punishments, and often the punishments people come up with, are irrelevant to, or not relevant to, say, even the crime or the misbehavior. Yeah. It's funny how punishments aren't related to misbehaviors at all quite often. It's really our society. Well, no, the question really is, why is our society so focused on punishment as a tool for behavior correction? Well, you know, it works a little bit. You know, but what it is it's really an extrinsic motivator and not an intrinsic motivator, right? This is why I really, you know, I want to build a scaffolding around people to help them behave in ways that are helpful to them and to me, and where everyone benefits. And you know, it's about instruction, it's about education, it's about empathy. Empathy can bring this around. That's also why I have a really strong interest in empathy and understanding another person's world, so I can figure out, you know, what the stories they tell themselves, the narrative that they tell themselves that creates meaning in their lives, that makes this misbehavior or this behavior useful to them. And you know, once you get to the bottom of that, then it's a lot easier to provide aid in the form of a different perspective, of a more complete understanding. And then miraculously, once that recognition is integrated into their worldview, then, you know, the misbehavior is corrected, and it takes no energy, right? It's just the energy of creating improved understanding and education, and then there's no need for punishment, right? Yeah. So, anyway. Well, I think I've rambled on enough today. I want to thank you for spending the time you did with me and allowing me to ramble in front of you. I hope you find this information useful. And you know, I never did get around to reading my Big Fat Zombie Goldfish today. And I also never did get around to reading the DK Books, Eyewitness Books passage about explorers or the planet Mars. We'll just have to do that another day. And hey, thank you for traveling with me this last 40 minutes or so. And you know, I just want to reiterate how much I care for you and have an interest in your well-being. And you know, what you are thinking and what you are feeling is important to me. And I am willing to give you the respect and the space that you need to, you know, to be yourself and to develop into the amazing person that I know you're capable of being. Okay? I love you, girl. Peace.